What's going on, everybody? It's the Old Weeb, and today I'm talking about how the legacy characters in the last couple of years have been kind of bastardized and kind of picked apart to make way for modern audiences, but also taken those characters and tried to convert them into a more feminine idea. But today we're talking about a character that was already an icon while being a female character, and they decided that it wasn't good enough that they were curvy, attractive, however you want to put it, and decided they needed them to be more masculine and potentially a little bit more colorful, if you know what I mean. Let's get into it. So, the idea that Lara Croft, iconic design character, the badass that she is, out here fighting dinosaurs with two pistols, is somehow not progressive enough for some people in Hollywood, of all things, to adapt to a Netflix series and then try to change not only the design of the character but the relationships that she has to other people. If you've seen the show or clips of the show, you notice that they've kind of taken some civil liberties of how they portray certain iconic characters.
First yoga, then dance lessons.
To Lara Croft and her relationships to them, as well as involving a whole new character who has no basis in the stories, but also has kind of a lesbian will they won't they feel to it. And my issue with this kind of thing is that if you wanted to make iconic new characters that fit some kind of demographic you're going for, then do that. The idea that you're going to take legacy characters or just IPs that are well known and try to ride its coattails while creating something else entirely genuinely pisses people off, and people are allowed to feel that way. And the idea that people come at it with just disingenuous arguments that people just don't like change, people don't like woke, whatever buzzword you want to use. The fact of the matter is, people go to watch something that they know with a certain level of expectations. And when expectations aren't met, people get genuinely upset. And then to be gaslit into believing that the reason why you're upset isn't the reason you're being upset. And then when you try to articulate your reason, you're called a bunch of buzzwords as well as some actually defeating your argument. Women in video games are going to be sexy sometimes. It's a marketing pool. Like, it's just how you sell things. Because I'm sorry, but 9 times out of 10, maybe now 7 out of 10, gamers are dudes, and dudes like hot women. In fact, in the Tomb Raider franchise, there's a famous scene from, I believe, one of the first games where you can see, quote-unquote, Lara Croft getting into a tub or a shower, and before anything happens, she kind of looks at the camera and shoots at you, because it's how dare you look at her. It's a kind of tongue-in-cheek thing, where it's like, yeah, we know what we made, we know how she looks, but we kind of appreciate the audience of the games who play her. In fact, she got a remake, we'll say in 2012, 2013, in a new, and that design, yes, even though it toned down some of the 90s portrayal of her, it still gave her a sense of, intrigue and beauty and kind of femininity that comes with the character. Well, again, she's still a badass, and that's my confusion here. If you want to make characters, especially female characters, seem like they don't need a guy, they don't need a man, they can be independent and strong, we have plenty of those in gaming without a loss of femininity. It's like, if you look at the last 5 years of gaming, I want you to kind of think of any characters, especially female characters, that come to the forefront of your mind. And if you think of them, are they a badass first? Or are they simply attractive first? Because I've made videos talking about necessarily think of 2B, Eve, Bayonetta, etc. characters from not only just the last 5 years, but just in general, where I think of more of their exploits and what I did with them in the games as opposed to simply how they look. Yes, they happen to be very attractive, but what I was saying earlier is that that's a marketing tool. And the idea that that's a bad thing is crazy, because we live in an era now of body positivity, and with that comes a spectrum of body types. All body types are supposed to be valid. All body types are supposed to be accepted. That is true in the abstract, meaning that you aren't really allowed to tell someone what is and isn't the body they want to be with, like the body that they're happy with. That's a personal preference. But here's the thing, though. We've kind of done a full overcorrection now, where if characters have these, quote, unrealistic bodies in video games, that it's a problem. And then when people go up, well, what's the logic with that with men bodies? They're like, well, that's bad too, but you guys just don't complain about it because reasons. And I'm like, We don't complain about it because we know it's fictional. These characters aren't real, and I don't think genuine people look at a video game woman and think, I want to find someone who looks exactly like that. And going back to that, is that what's wrong with these characters as they are designed? If you want to say they, quote, appeal to the male gaze, it's like, okay, and is that a problem? Are we going to get really, like, not morally speaking or ethically speaking, but when it comes down to it, these games are a product. They want to sell them to a collection of people, notably dudes, just because it happens to be a more male-centric hobby. Not saying women aren't in gaming, and of course there's always bi women and lesbian women who also play games. They appreciate it just as much as the dudes do. And I find it strange that people try to make this some kind of like culture war battleground, that we must have more realistic looking characters. But in translation to realistic looking, they basically mean uglified, uglier characters. And for what purpose? If someone doesn't find someone attractive, that is their personal preference, that is their personal belief. They're not trying to make you convert, or the vice versa. It seems like they're trying to make people convert to liking people that they don't like. And that's the thing, though. Like, this argument comes down to personal preference, personal choice, and then not wanting to support something that they don't personally like. And then when things fail that have these elements, they get lumped into, well, people didn't like that because they're anti-woke. People didn't like that because they don't like people of color. They don't like blah, 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 blah. There's so many characters in just fiction that are people of color, or even not even naturally human, that still are beloved and talked about from a mainstream of media to fandoms, like Lara from Mass Effect. She's a blue alien from an all-female race, and she is amazing. And no one ever would undermine her character because she's well written. And when it comes back to Lara Croft, I can't think of a more iconic female character who paved the way into the 90s outside of like Chun-Li, Mai Shiranui, and a few other games from fighting games, because, you know, people play with them all the time. And those iconic looks. Cammy from also Street Fighter, who got a redesign into the most recent Street Fighter, where she's wearing even more clothes compared to her old form in her Spetsnaz uniform, and she looks better. Like, she looks genuinely better with more clothes. So don't act like a bunch of gamers are just being horn dogs because they want to see half-naked women on the screen. They just like a character because they either get to play with that character and understand her story, or in just relation to her design. It could be that simple. Art is subjective, and everyone likes different kinds of art. Now, let's go with the elephant in the room, is that people do not like the design of Lara Croft because they think they made her more masculine with her shoulders, the way her face is defined, and generally just she lacks curves. And some people would say, well, that's not really realistic for what she's been doing. And I was like, again, this is a character who's fought dinosaurs with twin pistols in ancient tombs of Mexico. What do we care? Why does it matter? She doesn't have to be realistic in any way, shape, or form. And don't act like guys don't like muscly women. Karlach from Baldur's Gate 3 is a beloved character and known as a muscle mommy. We genuinely don't care if a woman has muscles. It's way that you define the muscles that can be off-putting or enticing depending on the dude. And Karlach's design, while she is a muscle mommy, she still has a guaranteed feminine figure when you put her in any kind of dress or outfit. Again, the premise behind the debate is laughable because it's arguing a subjective point as if it's objective. Someone's beauty standards are to their own, and if they say I don't like something, they're allowed to say that. You don't have to call them an incel, a bigot, a whatever, just because you happen to like something while they don't. And the best nail in the coffin for why this is a disingenuous argument is because we did the exact same kind of outrage and crying, however you want to put it, with Indiana Jones in his last movie. They neutered the character, undermined his legacy for the sake of propping up a female version of Indiana Jones, who was not a likable character. Yes, you could give Indy have some toxic, old school, whatever you want to call it, traits, but he was still a likable, fun character to root for, while also getting into shenanigans fighting the you-know-who's from Germany. All I'm saying is that we are very consistent in the outrage we give to these kinds of legacy-ruining, tomb-raiding of IPs for the sake of trying to get more gold or money from the beloved fans of a guaranteed franchise. We will consume and we will buy more of the stuff we enjoy as long as it says true to why we love it in the first place. Look at the Halo franchise. Come on now. And I believe that at some point in time, we're going to get past all the, I would say, vocal minorities of the internet. And again, maybe sit down and have genuine conversations when it comes to issues in gaming and media, etc. When it comes to character design, plot, storyline, themes, whatever. But all I know is that you need to stop with the name calling when people just bring up their personal feelings on a matter, unless it's something factually incorrect. And the thing about people having issues with character redesigns, that's a factual issue because their characters have literally been redesigned. We can see it. There is factual evidence. Whether or not you believe people should be entitled to feel a certain way, it's just an opinion. And you're allowed to have it, just as they're allowed to share it. Now, can we please stop ruining old beloved franchises and trying to recontextualize their iconic characters for modern audiences? No one's asking for it. They just want the characters that they grew up loving. GG's, guys.